Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the Nutrition Detective around these here YouTube parts. We have a banger of a show today about how our U.S. government is not really protecting us from nickel at all. They're actually making things worse by choice and by actions. So I wanted to get into that first. I just wanted to say something that was it kind of boosted my boosted me up a little bit this week. Somebody searched for me on the internet and they said it said nutrition detective, or Garrett Smith, widely known as the nutrition detective. And that's what Google said about me. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Google says I'm widely known as. So anyway, that was kind of fun. For those of you who have been having, so it is June 16th, 2026. For those of you who have been having a rough week before this, I just wanted to say that there was something that I hadn't even heard of before. There was a super new moon, I think 1 or 2 nights ago. Yeah, not last night, but the night before. And then there was another planetary parade, which apparently what we're finding is that can really affect how people feel. And then there was several gigantic Schumann spikes. So I just wanted to let you know, in the last week, we'll add the planetary parades to your space weather things that can affect you. And then super new moons, I guess. Those are new, and those affected some people. So if you had some trouble sleeping this last week, maybe you felt hot, maybe you woke up a lot, maybe you were tossing and turning, maybe things were hurting. That's kind of what happens with this stuff. If you were having more emotional stuff, it happens. And what the goal is, what we're hoping to see, is that since these things are electromagnetic in nature, and probably in other ways too, as we become less toxic, it will affect us less. However, this stuff is affecting everybody everywhere. I think I've told you guys, I had multiple people who know people in emergency departments, and they've said the last 3 weeks have just been insane in emergency departments. So it's not just, if you've been feeling bad, it's not just you. It's affecting everyone. And if you've noticed people driving even stupider than usual, anyway, there's stuff going on that is beyond anything that we have control over. So let us get into the nickel toxicity. Am I going to say it's a cover-up? Am I going to say it's planned? I don't know. Here's what I'm saying about this. I want to remind people about the nickel thing. The foods that we are finding high in nickel now, were they always bad for us? No, they weren't always bad for us. When you're going to see how much nickel there is in the fertilizers that they put on the plants and how long they've been doing it and how much nickel they'll allow in the water, then you start going, oh, this is starting to make sense. Like the food has more nickel in it, and certain foods, like very high fiber foods, plant-based foods in general, but very high fiber plant-based foods collect more nickel than others. And so we are dealing with a modern problem, particularly a problem here in the US. And you'll see why. So it's bad. It's really bad. So Joe just shared the Google Doc of the links to the show. So if you want to go and look at that and look at the links that I'm going to go through, you can do that. I'll be going through him here on the screen, so you may just want to look at that later, but either way. So first, let me share my screen. I forgot to do that. Okay, so, and again, I want to remind people of a saying, which is the purpose of a system is what it does. This is a very, very important saying. It doesn't matter what people say a system is supposed to do or that it's not supposed to do that. If it's doing something over and over and over and over again, that is the purpose of the system. So if you look at a lot of American industry and our cosmetics and our foods and our water and all this stuff, and it's poison everywhere, the purpose of a system is what it does. This may, some people, their anxiety can't handle this, but they are purposely poisoning us from multiple angles. And they have admitted to that is their plan for a long time. They tell us in various ways. So our goal here is not to say that what your great grandparents necessarily ate was bad. It's to say that we don't live in that time anymore. It's not the same world. It's not the same anything. So we are dealing with a modern problem with an approach that we have to figure out through all of it. So let's get into it now. So I'm looking at the notes right now. I just wanted to go over this. Oh, I didn't open that one up. Let me open that one up. And I want to remind people of this first one. Is it going to let me in, or is it going to ask me if I'm a bot? Okay, good. So this is to just remind people, if you're new to this, how bad is nickel? Like, I didn't know nickel was bad. It's in stainless steel, but is it bad? Yeah, it's real bad for humans particularly. So I'm just going to go through this. This is just kind of a reminder, catching you up. Toxic metals, including excessive levels of essential metals, yes, it's true, tend to change biological structures and systems into either reversible or irreversible conformations, as in they could change back or they may not change back, leading to the derangement of organ functions or ultimately death. Nickel, a known heavy metal, is found at very low levels in the environment. Nickel is available in all soil types and meteorites, and also erupts from volcanic emissions. It's weird that they make sure to say that in there. The vast industrial use of nickel during its production, recycling, and disposal has led to widespread environmental pollution. Gosh, nobody talks about it. Nickel is discharged into the atmosphere either by nickel mining or by various industrial processes such as power plants or incinerators, rubber, and plastic industries. Sorry, Joe wants me to zoom in for you guys. Rubber and plastic industries, nickel cadmium battery industries, and electroplating industries. The extensive use of nickel in various industries or its occupational exposure is definitely a matter of serious impact on human health, yet almost nobody's talking about it. In this review, we address the acute, that's short-term, subchronic, that's slower, and chronic, that's slow death. Nickel toxicities in both human and experimental animals, and there's a lot of it. Genotoxicity, carcinogenicity, immunotoxicity, and toxicity in various other metabolically active tissues. One of the things that I went over in one of the very first episodes was how when nickel has been injected into animals, it has caused cancer at every single spot it's been injected, and then sometimes it spreads beyond that. What other compound do you know of that will literally, anywhere you injected it, will cause cancer right there? So nickel is really no joke. Oh, yes, and just wanted to add this last one here. The beneficial and adverse effects of metals are well known to many branches of life sciences, but their influences in physiological chemistry have been studied in depth only in recent decades. Wonder why? Why would they not want to study? For those of you who have heard the Rockefeller, the plan where they talk about using soft metals, you can go back to that. So what we're going to start with, let me go back here. Let me go back to this doc. First, we're going to go over the nickel standards in water. Okay. And I want to start off with, okay, nobody here is a fan of the WHO. Okay. Oh, let me make this bigger. I'm sure Joe's about to ask me to do that. So let's get this zoomed in. So this is the nickel in water section. So the WHO says the limit on nickel in water, just remember, we're just going to go by the middle number, the one I highlighted here. These are all the same values. This is the number we're going to go by, 70. Okay. In 2006, they increased it from 20 to 70. Okay. 3.5 times. They just decided, oh, well, we should probably increase this. It's not as dangerous as we thought. Okay, well, let's go and see if there's any questioning of the World Health Organization's change to the amount of nickel in water. Okay, here we go. Urgent need to reevaluate the latest World Health Organization guidelines for toxic inorganic substances in drinking water. And this was 2015, so they changed it in 2006. We're just focusing on nickel today, so we're just going to go to the nickel section. I'm going to read this whole thing because it's really bad. Nickel. In 2006, the World Health Organization increased the health-based drinking water guideline for nickel from 20 to 70. This increase was maintained in 2011, so they evaluated again and they said, no, we're good. The former 20 micrograms per liter guideline was based on several peer-reviewed studies of rats, mice, and dogs that found adverse kidney, liver, and reproductive effects from chronic exposure to nickel. When developing the current 70 micrograms per liter guideline, instead of relying on these several peer-reviewed studies, the WHO selected a single, more recent, unpublished, industry-funded, 2-generation study of chronic exposures in rats that was performed by a commercial laboratory. An interlibrary loan request for this unpublished study was declined by the industry group. Does that sound like a cover-up to anybody? No, you can't see the study that the World Health Organization based their water recommendation for nickel on. Okay, in contrast to the several peer-reviewed studies that gave a 20 microgram per liter guideline, this single unpublished industry-funded study suggested a 130 microgram per liter guideline. Imagine industry trying to make it so they don't get in trouble. Somewhat unexpectedly, an acute exposure study producing eczema in humans yielded a lower guideline than this unpublished chronic exposure study, so the current 70 micrograms per liter guideline protects against eczema as an acute exposure effect and discounts possible health effects due to chronic exposures. So again, they only care about stuff that they can see right away. People getting sick slowly and spending tons of money in the sick care system, they don't mind that. That's what they want. And they had this unexpectedly a study pop up, and then they had to change what they were saying. It is unclear why a lower 20 micrograms per liter guideline that protects against a more likely chronic exposure was replaced with a higher 70 micrograms per liter guideline that protects against a less likely acute exposure. The purpose of a system is what it does. This example for nickel may be the first time in the history of the WHO that a relatively low guideline for a chronic exposure was replaced with a relatively high guideline for an acute exposure. You guys ever remember how people complain about, vitamin A, or vitamin D, rat poison pills or vitamin A, and they'll say, but it takes a huge dose acutely to hurt you. And it's like, that's not what we're talking about. Stop straw manning. We're talking about chronic accumulation exposure. They just can't understand it. They need it to be like the eczema that happens right away. Some of the attendees at the 2013 World Health Organization meetings on the guidelines for drinking water quality expressed concern about replacing a guideline that is based on chronic exposure with a guideline that is based on acute exposure. Oh, too many pop-ups. Another concern is that the WHO guideline value is based on a LOAEL, lowest observed adverse effect level for an acute effect. At the meeting, it was concluded that guidance on deriving GV guideline values based on an acute effect is needed, and, quote, a robust evaluation needs to be undertaken. However, no deadline for this evaluation was scheduled. We really need to do something, but just don't schedule it. Of further concern is that when revising the nickel guideline, the WHO increased the allocation for exposure from drinking water from 10% to 20%, effectively doubling the guideline. So they're saying you could get even more nickel. The former 10% allocation was based on a peer-reviewed article and a government report. The WHO did not provide references supporting this allocation increase for nickel. It is possible that the increase from 10 to 20% might derive from the following change to the WHO Policies and Procedures Manual. In most circumstances, allocation factors will range from 20% to 80%. Default allocation factors are 20% for chemicals, for which drinking water is not the main exposure route, and 80% for chemicals for which drinking water is the main exposure route. If so, it would be more protective of public health to replace the default 20% allocation for nickel exposure from drinking water with the peer-reviewed 10% allocation. The report from the 2013 World Health Organization meetings on the guidelines for drinking water quality would seemingly support this return to a more protective 10% value. Based on exposure patterns, it may be necessary to revisit the allocation factor used in the derivation of the World Health Organization guiding values? What was the GV? Come on. Guideline value. Oh, it's right there for nickel. However, the time frame for this reevaluation is unknown. So they're basically saying, we're going to kick the can. We're going to ignore you. There's no pressure on us to do anything about it. This is what we wanted. So going back to this document. So again, it was 20 before 2006. Then they bumped it up to 70, and then they increased the drinking water percent to 20% to add more wiggle room for toxicity to happen. Okay, so now let's go to the European Union. The European Union drinking water directive is 20. Okay, so it is 20. It stayed 20. Europe tends to care more about their people's food and water, apparently, than than the World Health Organization does. And this is just to show you water quality standards. This is the EU. And here we have nickel at 20 micrograms per liter. So that's just to show you that it's there. Okay. Now, here's a really interesting one. California Public Health Goal, the place that has the Prop 65 and all that stuff. Now, a goal means this is not a standard. Nobody has to follow this. This is a goal. This is what they'd like, of 12 micrograms per liter. And, you know, sometimes we got to realize, obviously, the things that they do in California, they're like trying to ruin California. Their goal is to just absolutely destroy everything about California. So this could, you know, it may be very safe. It may also ruin industry and drive all the industry out of California, which is part of the goal. So anyway, we'll just go and look at, is it this one? Yeah, no, it's this one. Let's go here. And again, this is just the official doc, the public health goal, nickel in drinking water, California public health goal. Here it is, 12 micrograms per liter. Okay. Oh, sorry. Joe, yeah, I'm zooming. There we go. Anyway, this is just to show you that it's out there. Okay. So we got that. So that's a public health goal. That means nothing. So now we come to the rest of the U.S. Is there a U.S. standard maximum contaminant level, the most nickel you could have in your water by the EPA? No, there is no regulation on nickel in the water in the U.S. at all. Nothing. They don't care. Or the purpose of a system is what it does. The EPA back in the day. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Joe, I'm on the wrong screen. Here we are. We're back to it. Federal EPA maximum contaminant level. I put NA there because it doesn't exist. It never has. Or wait, actually, no, I'm sorry. The EPA had some guidance on it. So the EPA Lifetime Health Advisory. So this is an advisory. Again, this is like, an advisory is like a goal. Okay. Was 100. So even still, when the EPA said something about nickel, it was higher than anything else that anybody else is doing. 100. And then the argument was, they said, the industry said, well, like, EPA, why are you going to even bother doing anything about this? Because only 7 places in the entire country would test high. So why don't we just forget all about it? And what did they do? This is from the EPA archive. The technical fact sheet on nickel. These are the contamination levels, or MCL, MCLG. These are basically the maximum levels of nickel. They were remanded. They were rescinded. They were removed on February 9th, 1995. This means that while many water suppliers continue to monitor nickel levels in their water, there is currently no EPA legal limit on the amount of nickel in drinking water. EPA is reconsidering the limit on nickel. This was 95. 31 years later, do you think they're going to do anything about it? This partially outdated fact sheet is provided for your information. I don't think I highlighted anything else in this. Nope. So, does the U.S. care about us in terms of nickel in our water? No, they don't. So now, because even if they did, their best attempt was the worst of everywhere. Okay. So now I just want to go and remind you of this one paper about how dangerous it is to have too much nickel in your water. So this paper is nickel absorption and kinetics in human volunteers. Wow, a human study even. So what they did was they had people fast for 12 hours. They gave them either a glass of water or with nickel in it, a certain amount of nickel in it, or they gave them eggs, some scrambled eggs with the same amount of nickel in it. So they gave them either eggs to eat with no drink, or they gave them water to drink with no food. And they'd been fasting for 12 hours, and it was just plain water. Absorbed nickel averaged 27% of the dose ingested in water versus 0.7%. That's less than 1% of the same dose ingested in food. A 40-fold difference. 40 times more nickel was absorbed from the water. Like that, you know, when all the health gurus tell you wake up and have a glass of water first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. You better at least start rinsing out your pipes from the stainless steel that might be in there to get the nickel out before you take that extra nickel first glass of water on an empty stomach in the morning. Okay. So that's why water is really important here. So let's get into the next part. Okay, let's share this one. Oh, let's go view full screen. Okay, nickel and fertilizers. This is okay. So you know how I told you that all these foods weren't super problematic before until now? Well, there's a reason why, especially in the US. So, biosludge, as in sewage type waste that they allow to be processed and then spit back onto the fields so you can then eat the foods grown in it. Okay. Again, you'll see the pattern here. 1989, the EPA proposed rule for nickel cumulative pollutant loading rate for agricultural land was 78 kilograms per hectare. Okay. I can show you the doc. It's right here. Nickel, 78. Oh, sorry. It's right here. Joe, I'm not going to zoom in on this one. It's right here. It's small type. 1989 was this paper that came out. Okay. So now let's go back here and let's go. The EPA changed it in 1993. The final rule, it became 420 kilograms per hectare, about a 5.4 times increase. That's weird. 5 times higher than what they thought it should be at first, and then the EPA's nickel level was 5 times higher than Europe's. What a weird pattern. And then this is the document that has the 1993 change, 420 for nickel. Now, let's go look and just see, are they really trying to get us in the US? Are they really trying to get us? I don't know. What is Canada's standard for biosludge? Oh, it's 36. So it's like 12 times less than ours. Sorry, Joe, I missed that one too. It's 36 right here. Why is America allowing so much nickel? And here, if you want to see the documentation, here it is. Maximum acceptable cumulative metal addition to soil over 45 years. Nickel is 36 kilograms, or that's kilograms of metal per hectare. So, yeah. So now let me go to the next part. So you'll see a pattern here. It's not a truthful pattern. We'll put it that way. Oh, yeah, and I forgot one last thing. There is no single U.S. federal nickel limit for phosphate fertilizer contaminants. So phosphate fertilizer is normally contaminated with toxic metals all over the place. You can look it up. And they just say this amount is okay and this amount is not. And phosphate fertilizer plants poison the area around them. It's been shown in multiple countries and multiple studies. Like they poison the hell out of people. And a big part of that is nickel. So do you think there's much nickel left in phosphate fertilizer? Probably. But the US government doesn't set its own limit. It decides to let the states do that. So now if you start having more nickel in the literal fertilizers, you're going to have more nickel in the food, right? Now, governments and the healthcare, the industrial disease care industry cannot have people talking about toxicity. They cannot bring that up. They will not allow that to become a topic of conversation. So the European Food Safety Administration, even with their lower nickel standard for water in 2020, they increased the tolerable daily intake. I love that word, tolerable daily intake, from 2.8 micrograms per kilograms of body weight a day to 13 micrograms per kilogram of body weight a day. Now, let's just go and verify this just so you guys can see that it happened. Where was it? Let's go here. Let me find it. There it is. Let me zoom in a little more. 2020, October, EFSA updates its scientific advice on the risks to human health from nickel in food and drinking water. Experts increase the safe level, known as the tolerable daily intake, from 2.8 micrograms per kilogram of body weight to 13 micrograms per kilogram of body weight. This is due to the application of the updated benchmark dose guidance, which resulted in a more thorough data set that industry provided, I'm sure. Experts concluded that current chronic dietary exposure to nickel may be of concern in young people, infants, toddlers, and children. Wait. So these experts concluded that chronic dietary exposure to nickel may be of concern in young people, infants, toddlers, and children, the next generation. Yet they increase it by 5 times. Now I want you to understand how much this is. Okay, so a lot of there's things out there with like low nickel diets, and they'll create some arbitrary standards of what to be below. So let's just say, there was one that I saw originally. It was 150 micrograms a day of nickel. Okay. So 150 micrograms a day per nickel, 150 micrograms a day of nickel would fit this for like a 52 kilo person, right? A 52 kilo person, that's like 116 pounds or something off the top of my head. 116 pound person at 2.8 micrograms. That was the tolerable, that was the safe dose, was basically on a low nickel diet. Wow. 13 micrograms per kilogram of body weight. Now that person would be up to, what is that? 650? Wait until you see what they say is actually safe, or what used to be safe. So they're saying that everybody can just be on like a mega high nickel diet. You got to remember, folks, with the technology revolution, they can't make nickel bad now. They absolutely cannot make nickel bad. Nickel cannot be bad. That's why I'm going to get so much pushback on this from the outside world, is because industry cannot have this become bad. Okay, so Europe sold out. Oh, and let's go and look at this. Let's go look at this paper. Dietary intake. Oh, this is so bad. Dietary intake of nickel and zinc by young children results from food duplicate portion measurements in comparison to data collected from dietary records, calculated from dietary records, and available data on levels in food groups. So what I believe they mean here, I didn't look this up, I should have, but when they say duplicate portion measurements, they are going to like remake the food. So like the kid eats the food during the day, and they're going to literally like make a second portion of it that they measure the nickel in and the zinc. So they're not just guessing from this, they're going to actually like take a second set of the same food and then measure that. And then they would also do food records. They did another version where they looked at dietary records and that stuff. So the daily dietary intake of nickel and zinc by 42 young children, 21 boys and 21 girls from 4 to 7 years of age. 4 to 7 years old. Living in urban and rural areas of Germany and having different food consumption behavior was determined by the duplicate method with a 7-day sampling period. Daily intake rates based on the 294 individual food duplicate analysis were 12 micrograms a day up to 560 micrograms of nickel a day. And that's the range. So the average, 92 for a 4 to 7 year old. Do you remember what we just said about a 50-pound person, a 50-pound, let's say, woman? The old European standard used to be that she would get like 150 micrograms of nickel a day. Yeah, we're talking about 4 to 7 year olds now. And 1.5 to 11 milligrams of zinc per day. The results from the dietary records, when they calculated from the dietary records, were 35 to 1,050 micrograms of nickel a day, with the average of 123 and 1.7 to 15 milligrams of zinc a day. These numbers are insane. 4 to 7 year olds. In the case of nickel, the discrepancies between the methods leads one to suppose that the main factors influencing nickel intake by food are not directly caused by easily accessible food ingredients themselves. Pay attention here, folks. It is possible that other factors, such as contaminated drinking water or the transition of nickel from kettles, your electric kettle. Oh, Kelsey figured out, I forget how much it was, but an electric kettle, when she measured it, I forget Kelsey, if you're in the chat, say what the concentration was, but it increased it by 7 micrograms. She put new water in the kettle, she boiled it, and then she measured the nickel in it. She didn't let it sit around like most of us do. Like I have an electric kettle in the kitchen. I don't use it anymore really, but it's sitting there with water in it that's been in there for probably several weeks. And normally, did I not know about this stuff? I would have used it. I would have just been like, yeah, it's fine. It was clean water when I put it in there and it's closed. But it's been sitting there with the little nickel heating agent, or whatever you want to call it, heating element, sticks up through the glass in the bottom, and that's what heats the water. So it is literally a nickel heating element, or stainless steel. So I would, you can look up nickel-free electric kettles. They exist. I don't know if I'm going to buy one. I may just buy something else that's like, or just have better pots, have a glass pot and just heat the water in the pot like old school. Anyway, for nickel from kettles or other household utensils made from stainless steel into the food may be more relevant. So they're saying that the discrepancies in their measuring is probably from stuff in the foods in the kitchen, adding nickel to things. In addition, there are some foodstuffs with great variations in concentrations, often influenced by the growing area and environmental factors. Further, some food groups naturally high in nickel, like nuts, cocoa, or teas, might not have been kept sufficient within the records. In summary, the dietary record method gave sufficient results for zinc, but is insufficient for nickel. They're saying the measuring sucked. Based on the food duplicate analysis, children living in urban areas, pay attention to this. This is wild. This is where like people trying to be healthy may be making things worse. Based on the food duplicate analysis, children living in urban areas with consumption of food products from a family-owned garden or the surrounding area and or products from domestic animals of the surrounding area had about 1/3 higher nickel levels in their food than children living in an urban area, than either children living in an urban area or children consuming products exclusively from the supermarket. Now, I don't know, that could be a psyop. That could be to scare people away from growing their own food, but it could also be that people who are growing their own food and these like low, kind of suburban farmer types are maybe they have a lot of stainless steel pieces in their water supplies. Your outdoor people don't think much about the hose outdoors. Do you guys remember as a kid? I'm old enough to remember as a kid drinking from the hose. It tasted like metal. It literally tasted like metal. It took a while for it to stop. You had to run it for a while to get it to stop tasting like metal. So, yeah, that probably didn't help my early nickel toxicity. But think about people, watering their gardens all the time. They turn the water on, use it, let it sit, turn the water on again next day, so every time's recharged with nickel. Anyway, only slight differences were found with regard to zinc compared to the recommendations of the German Society of Nutrition. 25 to 30 micrograms of nickel a day is what they're saying. They're not recommending it as a nutrient. They're saying that's the max. And 5 milligrams of zinc a day. The participants of the study had a clearly increased nickel, and in view of the geometric mean value, a nearly adequate zinc intake. Oh, so it was the geometric mean, yeah. Health risks are especially given with regard to the influence of nickel intake by food on dermatitis for nickel-sensitive individuals. So they said 25 to 30 a day. What were the actual numbers? They were the geometric mean here, 3 times higher, 4 times higher. They have a nickel toxicity problem, and it's just happening. And then they're raising this was when? 2009. And then in 2020, they had to make it fit, right? So they have to, they see the research. We have a problem here, right? These kids, 4 to 7-year-olds, are getting way too much nickel. So what does the government do instead of going after industry? They raise the standards so that industry can't be found. They're like, no, it's definitely not affecting you at that level. There's no conspiracy. Definitely not. Okay, so then these are some numbers on nickel intake in the US and Europe. I forget when this was. I'll look it up. Institute of Medicine said less than half a microgram a day. I'm pretty sure that's impossible to eat a normal diet and get less than half a microgram of nickel a day. So this is like a lie, straight up. To 162 micrograms a day. Wow. That's like the European number. But do we actually think Americans are getting this little nickel? I don't. And the European Union was way higher than that. Wait, 2.51. I have to have the wrong number here. Oh, no, that's micrograms per kilogram of body weight per day. So like if you have that, let's just do that easy 50-pound person. This would be 75 to 500. 75 to 500. Wow, that's a huge difference between these two numbers. I think one group is not reporting the right numbers. So this was where I got those numbers from. I like this. Nickel and nickel compounds have been identified in at least 867 of the 1,868 hazardous waste sites that have been proposed for inclusion on the EPA National Priorities List. However, the number of sites in which nickel and nickel compounds have been evaluated is not known. Sounds like they don't want to find it. Let me go to the next part. Let me zoom in for Joe. Oh, we just threw this in again. If you're smoking weed, if you're smoking cigarettes, if you're vaping, if you're taking nicotine pouches, you're just silly and you should stop. But higher exposures may occur for workers and people who smoke tobacco or e-cigarettes. Occasional exposure via inhalation and dermal routes occurs in industries that work with nickel and its compounds, such as electroplating. this was an interesting one that we found and is part of probably Kelsey's long-term health issues that we've been, helping her through, and she's been helping other people through. She was a dental assistant to her mom. Dental technicians may be exposed to nickel in alloys used in the industry. I believe that's more dental lab technicians. They tend to keep leaving the word lab out, but still. My as an example, my barber yesterday was talking about how he has chronic inflammation. Now, you guys should know, barbers are touching stainless steel all day long, basically. And he was saying he brought up the subject of peptides, and he was wondering my take on them and all this stuff. And he said, if there was something I could inject like 3 days a week that would get rid of my inflammation, man, I'd do it in a second if it didn't have any side effects. I said, well, there is something that you're exposed to a lot that causes a lot of inflammation. And he said, what's that? And I said, well, all your tools there are stainless steel, right? And he goes, yeah. And I said, stainless steel has nickel in it, right? And I said, yeah. And I said, you absorb that nickel through your skin, and that's a huge part of your inflammation. And it just, the conversation kind of trailed off after that, because I don't think he was interested in fixing any problem. He was just like, if I can find a magic pill, I'll take the magic pill. If I can find the signs and wonders that make everything better without having to do anything, which is, oh my gosh, the GLP-1s, that is the greatest, like, something for nothing ever. Here was some other fun things that I found in this paper. Most nickel from facilities required to report to the EPA's toxic release inventory is released to the soil. Just put it in the ground. That's cool. Like, sure, it won't get into the plants or the water. Nickel typically accumulates at the surface of soils due to deposition and is strongly absorbed by soil and accumulates and concentrates in various plant species, which is why we are changing how we eat. Because it accumulates and concentrates in various plant species. And we went over that. Okay. And then they go on to say that nickel doesn't appear to accumulate in animals. And I'm like, oh, geez. So, yes, this was the last thing I wanted to go over here. So remember, the very groups that are telling us that, industry and them have decided that more nickel in our food is okay, are also pushing plant-based diets. They want you to be vegan. They want you to eat minimal meat. Muscle meat is one of the very, very few always low in nickel foods. Muscle meat is generally low in almost all the toxins. But what are the highest nickel-containing foods in the diets these days? Well, we got cocoa and chocolate. We got soybeans and soy products. Hey, do you remember the soybean and soy product fad? Legumes, as in beans, lentils, and peas. So yes, we have had to change what we are doing around here. Nuts and seeds. Oats, buckwheat, and other whole grains. And then the big one, how many times are they going to push the cruciferous brassica vegetables on us? They are the highest nickel accumulating common vegetable to eat. So we're talking broccoli, cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, etc. We had already been avoiding these because the sulfur in them slows your detox. It does not make detox faster. So imagine what the World Health Organization diet would look like. Pretty sure that would be it. Oh, but don't forget the bugs. You will eat the bugs. Do not forget the bugs. I'm sure the bugs will have no nickel in them. I might have to look that up. Okay, so now we're into the next part. This part will hopefully, this was fun for me to find, so I hope it blows your mind too. Okay. So you know how lots of people have talked about, and I've talked about, how there's a depletion of the micronutrients in plants. Yes? There is a depletion of micronutrients, which includes the vitamins and the minerals that are naturally occurring in plants. Nobody really seems to debate this. It's only the people now who are like completely anti-supplement, all supplements, because they have no capacity for nuance and understanding things, that now say, don't take anything ever and just eat food. And only food forever and ever. And I go, what's going to happen when you get unwell? And spring water and rest, is that still the joke? So let's go over this one. So nickel foliar application. This is when they just spray nickel solution on plants. Wheat and soybean. Hey, interesting choices. Growing under different NPK fertilizer levels. Well, that's phosphate. Hey, that's a phosphate fertilizer. But what happened when they applied this? Get out of here. Well, wait, where is it? Oh, did I miss the highlighting on this one? Nope, there it is. We're not going to worry about the other stuff. We're just going to hit this last one. In addition, all concentrations of nickel sulfate spraying on the plants, all concentrations, decreased micronutrients concentrations in all organs of both plants, while nickel concentrations were increased. So if they spray the plant, so what they saw in this study was if they did the right combination of nickel, like the lower end of nickel, and then they gave more NPK fertilizers, the plants got basically bigger and fatter. They got thicker and they made more carbs and stuff like that. Okay. So you got bigger plants, fatter plants, thicker plants that were less nutritious with more toxicity in them. Does this sound like people today? I think it does. Every concentration decreased minerals and any vitamins that you care to think about in all organs of both plants, and nickel went up. Okay, and they consider nickel, so they consider nickel a beneficial. Nickel at low concentrations in both plants could be considered a beneficial nutrient element. Well, it will make the plants bigger, less nutritious. They can sell them for more, a pound. They can sell a pound for the same price as the other stuff. But anyway, so that's just spraying nickel on plants. Yes, now we're going to get into this one. Foliar nickel application. Here, let's go into this one. Foliar nickel application alleviates detrimental effects of glyphosate drift on yield and seed quality of wheat. They are literally going to spray the plants with nickel so that the drifting glyphosate from the other fields doesn't hurt the plants. I think it's because the glyphosate can grab onto the nickel and not hurt the plant so much. It's like a distraction for the glyphosate. It gives the glyphosate something to grab onto other than sucking the minerals out of the plant, because that's what glyphosate does. Glyphosate drift to non-target crops causes growth aberrations and yield losses. Wow, sounds poisonous to me. This herbicide can also interact with divalent nutrients, like zinc, magnesium, calcium, good divalent nutrients, and there's plenty of the bad ones, the manganese and the copper and the nickel and all that stuff, and form poorly soluble complexes. The possibility of using nickel, an essential divalent metal, for who? For alleviating glyphosate drift damage to wheat was investigated in this study. Foliar, so when they sprayed it on the plants, not the soil, foliar but not soil nickel application significantly reduced glyphosate injuries, including yield losses, stunting, and excessive tillering. Both shoot and grain nickel concentrations were enhanced by foliar nickel treatments. They're going to feed you more nickel in your whole wheat. It stays in the bran mostly, folks, so that's why if you're going to have wheat, you want to have white. If you're going to home mill it, you need to sift it and get the bran out. Seed germination and seedling vigor were impaired by glyphosate and improved by foliar nickel application to parental plants. Foliar nickel application appears to have great potential to ameliorate or make less bad glyphosate drift injury to wheat. So they will fill these wheat plants full of nickel, then tell you to eat whole wheat. More whole wheat. And they'll make more money, and people will get sicker, which means they'll make more money too. Not the people who are sick, though. Okay. Now we're going to get into a couple of, just to show you that they are literally selling these nickel foliar sprays. Here it is. Foliar Manaplex Nickel. Foliar nickel solution. Derived from nickel nitrate and urea. There was something funny here. Oh, yeah. Attention, some crops may be injured by the application of nickel. Do not exceed maximum recommended rate. Okay. Sounds good to me. And then we have Koch. Well, that's not highlighting. But anyway, MoCo, molybdenum, cobalt, and nickel. The molybdenum's the one thing helping here. They want to throw cobalt and nickel onto your plants. Go ahead. But those are all, I believe these are all divalent. Are they all divalent cations? Molybdenum's 2+, yeah. Anyway. Boy, molybdenum must be a lot less toxic than these two. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Joe. You're right. This is the right one. Sorry, this is the MoCo nickel from Koch Agronomic Services, where they have nickel and molybdenum and cobalt. Look at these ratios between them. 3.0% for molybdenum, and then the other ones are, what is that? 1/20th? 1/10th? 1/20th? Don't put too much of those on it. But, yeah. So that's that. And then do we have one more? Oh, yes, yes. Now, before I go into this, I am not an apologist for glyphosate by any means. My old program used to be about getting glyphosate out of the diet along with vitamin A, because glyphosate inhibits vitamin A detox, like I went over with nickel. But I wanted to hit on some important things in this paper because, again, I do believe the bad guys like to distract us. They like to say, look over here, focus on this, but ignore this over here. Okay, they really like to do that. So a lot of the things that we may have been taught by influencers and the internet that are so bad may not actually be the really bad things. They're probably not good for us. They're not good for us, but it's to distract us from the really bad things. And if you don't understand that strategy that they would do, if you think you go to Rumble and you get all the information on health, or you follow all the like fever dream sky is falling people on Instagram warning you about every single little thing, but they all seem to talk about the same topics over and over. So they're all talking about all these poisons, but they all talk about the same poisons. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a reason for that. They're paid to do that. Instagram rewards them if they talk about these things. So again, I'm not an apologist for glyphosate. What you're going to see is that these glyphosate-based herbicides, GBH, are worse than glyphosate itself. So toxicity of formulants and heavy metals in glyphosate-based herbicides and other pesticides. There's literally toxic metals in them. Okay, so we'll hit on these highlights first. Highlights the comparative effects of glyphosate alone, and 14 of its formulations were studied. So they literally looked at just glyphosate by itself, and 14 of the formulations where glyphosate is an ingredient, okay? Glyphosate was not the major toxic compound in the herbicide formulations. It was not the most toxic thing in there. Petroleum-based compounds in herbicides were highly more toxic than glyphosate. Actually, Kelsey has been going down a rabbit hole on some of these petroleum-based compounds, the phenoxyethylated, you'll see. It's a big word. But these things are nasty. These things are basically detergent going into your system and causing all sorts of problems. We identified arsenic, chromium, cobalt, lead, and nickel in the pesticide formation. So now there's the pesticides they're spraying have nickel in them too. Okay, so we're just going to go through this whole abstract. The major pesticides of the world are glyphosate-based herbicides, GBH. So pay attention to the GBH, and their toxicity is highly debated, which it'll make more sense to you why it's debated after this. To understand their mode of action, the comparative herbicidal and toxicological effects of glyphosate alone and 14 of its formulations were studied in this work as a model for pesticides. GBH are mixtures of water with commonly 36 to 48% glyphosate claimed as the active principle. Okay. As with other pesticides, 10 to 20% of GBH consists of chemical formulants. We previously identified these by mass spectrometry and found them to be mainly families of petroleum-based oxidized molecules, such as POEA and other contaminants. We exposed plants and human cells to the components of formulations, both mixed and separately, and measured toxicity and human cellular endocrine disruption below the direct toxicity experimentally measured threshold. Glyphosate was only slightly toxic on plants at the recommended dilutions in agriculture, in contrast with the general belief. In the short term, the strong herbicidal and toxic properties of its formulations were exerted by the POEA formulant family. This is the surfactant, detergent, nasty, oxidized stuff family alone. The strong herbicidal and toxic properties of its formulations were exerted by the POAE formulant family alone, not the glyphosate. The toxic effects and endocrine disrupting properties of the formulations was mostly due to the formulants and not to glyphosate. In this work, we also identified by mass spectrometry the heavy metals arsenic, chromium, cobalt, lead, and nickel, which are known to be toxic and endocrine disruptors as contaminants in 22 pesticides, including 11 glyphosate-based ones. This could explain some of the adverse effects of the pesticides. In vivo chronic regulatory experiments that are used to establish the acceptable daily intakes of pesticides, glyphosate or other declared active ingredients in pesticides are assessed alone without the formulants. Does that sound anything like how they try to do a phony placebo for the pokies? How they still give all the toxicity in the pokies? But in this one, they just look at the glyphosate alone in the research and they say, oh, the glyphosate's not bad at all. It's fine. Because that's not what's the final formula. See how their goal is to confuse you. That is their goal. And I'm not advising glyphosate. Don't get me wrong. Considering these new data, this assessment method appears insufficient to ensure safety. These results taken together shed a new light on the toxicity of these major herbicides and of pesticides in general. Yeah. So then they're going to spray nickel to save the plants from the glyphosate, and the glyphosate contains nickel. You're wondering why we have to change how we eat. You're wondering if the purpose of a system is what it does. It is. Okay. Okay, so now we just have a couple other things to go over. Piercings and skin exposures. So I kind of went over this already. Folks, if you're going to have any metal in your body, in your mouth, in your ears, it's better to not. It'd be better to get it out of you if you can. If you can't, boy, I'm going to tell you, you better be on Pectisol for like the rest of your life. And I'm dead serious about that. If you have metal in your body that you cannot get out, you should probably be on the triple dose a day of Pectisol for the rest of your life. Piercings and skin exposure. Let's go into this one. Because, again, the U.S. doesn't do things that other countries do. So the art of prevention, a piercing article about nickel. Har, har, har. Allergic contact dermatitis is a category of inflammatory skin conditions resulting from an interaction between a chemical and the skin, which results in a type 4 delayed hypersensitivity immune response. Some factors, pay attention here, some risk factors for the development of ACD may be genetic, but acquisition of ACD is believed to be due to exposure. It's toxicity accumulation. One of the most common causes of ACD is the ubiquitous metal nickel. It is the most common. The European Union addressed the increasing rates of nickel sensitization by instituting the Nickel Directive in 1994. This mandates that products intended for prolonged contact with the skin should release no more than 0.5 micrograms per centimeter squared a week, with a specific restriction on piercings, wounded skin limited to 0.2 micrograms per centimeter per week. Because if you have punctured skin or broken skin, you absorb more nickel. The institution of the directive has led to significantly decreased rates of nickel sensitization across Europe. They can actually say there was a cause and effect. Less nickel on people's skin caused less nickel problems. So it's the nickel that causes the problem. You understand? Let me see. Ear piercing is believed to be the most common source of nickel sensitization. A 2001 study by Ehrlich demonstrated only a 4% nickel sensitization rate in males with no piercings, compared with 11.1% and 14% in males with one or multiple piercings, respectively. When compromised by the trauma of piercing, skin penetration by allergens may be enhanced. In particular, penetrating wounds provide direct entry of the allergen to the dermis and dermal dendritic cells. Worst way you could expose yourself to nickel would be to stick it inside your body. Children represent an at-risk group for allergic contact dermatitis, which comprises 20 to 25% of all diagnoses of childhood dermatitis. In a recent publication from the Pediatric Contact Dermatitis Registry, inaugural case data of 1,142 pediatric patients, 48% of them had a positive patch test. So 48% of the kids who went to the dermatologist had a positive patch test. Well, if they went to the dermatologist for contact dermatitis, with the most common allergen being nickel in 22% of those patients. So nickel's always the most common. Notably, in 2008, in a study of 25,000 patients, Rachel observed rates of nickel sensitivity in children by patch testing to be 14.1% for boys and 32.4% for girls. That's because girls get their ears pierced. In a subsequent study, the North American Contact Dermatitis Group reported on 44,000 patients between 1994 and 2014, so a 20-year period, and found that 17.5% of patients tested were patch test positive for nickel sensitivity, making nickel the leading allergen in all age groups worldwide. And they're not doing anything about it. The purpose of a system is what it does. Just keep repeating that. Although abstinence, as in abstinence from jewelry and nickel things on your skin, although abstinence is the greatest opportunity for prevention, the best practice for piercing would be to have a professional use plastic, nickel-free metal, or a low nickel releasing stainless steel such as AISI 304, 316L, or 430, all of which release less than 0.03 microgram per centimeter squared a week, which is significantly below the European Union safety standard of 0.2 micrograms per centimeter squared per week. So there are options. If you insist on sticking things in your body and messing up your acupuncture meridians and doing all that stuff, I mean, you can. You can do it without a nickel problem. You might get a different problem. I don't know if I went over this stuff in a previous show, but I wanted to go over it again. These are some other things. Once ears have been pierced, an alternative to flossing. Okay, so they were talking about flossing as something that like YouTubers were doing or whatever. So you got your ear pierced and you put a piece of floss through it and you like clean it out and you keep it open so that you can have it, I don't know, open more with less of an earring post in it, less time. So you don't get as much nickel exposure. I guess. I don't care. I pierced my ear when I was in my teenage years, and I don't ever plan on doing it again. So once ears have been, well, that probably contributed to my nickel toxicity. Now that I think about it, I had braces and an ear piercing at the same time. When you look at this stuff, you go, oh yeah, now I know how it happened. So once ears have been pierced, an alternative to flossing that also prevents exposure to metals is an open wound. In an open wound is wearing plastic loops until the wounds have healed. After the pierced skin has healed, the earrings may then be replaced with sterling silver, titanium, low nickel release stainless steel, or greater than 18 karat gold. So I'm guessing they're saying 18 karat gold is not good enough. It should be greater than. To protect the skin against the most common causes of ACD, avoid piercing the skin, especially when young, particularly with posts that contain nickel-releasing metals. This adage is particularly important to follow early on in life to reduce ongoing nickel contact and the risk of developing allergy. Lastly, delaying piercing until after the placement of high nickel containing orthodontics may reduce sensitization risk by a factor of 1.5 to 2. Wow. Pretty sure I had my braces on when I got my ear pierced way back. So they were placed, I guess. So maybe that helped me somehow, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. Was there anything else? Nope. That was it on this one. But so that's just some guidelines but so remember, so nothing becomes big unless the bad guys want it to be big. What about piercing? Did piercing become really big? Yeah, it did. Does that mean that people in Hollywood and other places were doing it purposely to influence the youth and others to stick all these pieces of metal in themselves? Probably. It's all part of the system. And finally, this is going to be a bummer for those of you with tattoos. Sorry. Don't kill the messenger. Oh, I forgot one thing. I forgot this one. So even after, did I jump off that too fast? Hold on. Oh yeah, I jumped off that topic way too quick. Sorry about that. There was way more to go. Okay. Sorry, everybody. So again, what did Europe help their people, and what is the US doing about it? So nickel and cobalt allergy before and after the nickel regulation, evaluation of a public health intervention. Europe's the only one that's done this. Over the 20th century, the frequent use of nickel in consumer products resulted in an increasing prevalence of nickel allergy. Risk items included suspenders in the 1950s and 1960s, buttons. Your baby's jumper buttons that are silver are exposing them to nickel. Buttons, zippers, and rivets in the 1970s, so those stupid rivets on jeans. Ear-piercing jewelry in the 1980s. When subjects allergic to nickel were exposed to nickel in high concentrations, so you mean the exposure caused it. The toxicity caused it. It often resulted in allergic nickel contact dermatitis and hand eczema. In 1990, the Danish government began to regulate consumer nickel exposure as a response to the increasing nickel allergy problem. In 1994, the EU nickel directive was passed, a regulation that was based on the Danish and Swedish nickel regulations. You know what? I'm actually starting to wonder now. I had what I thought was psoriasis on my knuckles, and now I'm starting to wonder if it's hand eczema related to nickel, and it just never got that bad. Continuing, finally, it was evaluated whether a cobalt allergy epidemic had replaced the nickel allergy epidemic after nickel regulation in terms of increasing cobalt sensitization and cobalt exposure. So they regulate nickel, which means they start using cobalt more. Are we going to see cobalt sensitivity go up? The thesis showed that the prevalence of nickel allergy decreased significantly after nickel regulation in young Danish women from the general population, 18 to 35 years, and in the young Danish female dermatitis patients from a university patch test clinic, 0 to 30 years. Gosh, so nickel allergy is completely based on exposure. You reduce the exposure and less people have the problem. Stratification by ear piercing status revealed that women ear pierced before 1990 had a significantly higher prevalence of nickel allergy and dermatitis than women ear pierced after 1990. Something must have changed in the ear piercing equipment. Furthermore, the association between hand eczema and nickel allergy decreased in young women aged 18 to 35 years when a comparison was made between women who were patch tested and questioned in respectively 1990 and 2006. Wait, are they saying those are the same women? I don't know. Despite the decreasing prevalence of nickel allergy, this condition remains prevalent in young Danish women, as about 10% are nickel allergic. Genetic predisposition to nickel allergy was evaluated by investigating the possible association between filaggrin null mutation status and nickel allergy. A positive association was found, but it was also concluded that environmental nickel exposure, as in the environment, is of much greater importance. The stuff you're exposed to is more important than your genetics. Your genetics just determine whether you're fast or slow at getting rid of it. Thus, of 354 consumer items purchased from 36 different stores in Copenhagen, 22% release nickels in concentrations that may result in nickel dermatitis in sensitized individuals. Therefore, excessive consumer nickel exposure remains common in Denmark and may be an important explanation for the persistence of nickel allergy. Well, because people are still going to wear their piercings, and if no one's going to do anything to prosecute the people who are selling nickel problematic jewelry, then there's nobody's going to stop, right? They'll just beg forgiveness, not permission. They're just going to keep selling it. In conclusion, the Danish nickel regulation, the EU nickel directive, has changed the epidemiology of nickel allergy in Denmark. However, the nickel directive and its reference methods need to be revised to better protect consumers and dermatitis patients. So it's working. Next one. How's it going in the US? Well, this doesn't have an abstract here, but we're just going to hit the title's enough. Nickel allergy in the United States, a public health issue in need of a nickel directive. Dermatology Journal, the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology, calling for a nickel directive in the United States. Are they going to do it? No. Let's go into this one. So is it getting worse? This was, the paper is Epidemiology of Nickel Sensitivity, Retrospective Cross-Sectional Analysis of North American Contact Dermatitis Group Data, 1994 to 2014. We have no nickel directive. Results, the average frequency of nickel sensitivity was 17.5%. Nickel sensitivity significantly increased over time from 14.3% in 1994 to 20.1% in 2013 and 2014. Nickel-sensitive patients were significantly more likely to be female, young, non-white, and atopic, as in have eczema and asthma. Asthma, huh? Wow, Matt Stone, if you're watching, note this part. And or have dermatitis affecting the face, scalp, ears, neck, arm, or trunk. Overall, 55.5% of reactions were currently clinically relevant. This percentage significantly increased over time, from 44.1% in 1994 to 1996 to 51.6% in 2013 and 2014. Conclusions, nickel allergy is of substantial public health importance in North America. The frequency of nickel sensitivity in patients referred to for patch testing has significantly increased in a 20-year period. So we watch Europe do the nickel directive, and their nickel issues are going down, and we do nothing about it, even as doctors and journals call for us to do something about it. And I thought I'd just hit on this one real quick. Prevention of nickel allergy, the case for regulation. Nickel is the most common allergen detected in patch-tested patients. Nickel allergy is highest among females and patients under the age of 18, affecting 35.8% of patients patch-tested in this demographic. In contrast to Europe, where regulations have resulted in a decreasing prevalence of nickel allergy, the incidence of nickel allergic contact dermatitis in North America is increasing. Okay. And the final one. The American Academy of Pediatrics is literally calling for a nickel directive. I'm not going to read that whole thing. The American Academy of Pediatrics supports U.S. legislation that advances safety standards as modeled by the European Union that protect children from early and prolonged skin exposure to high nickel releasing items. I know we don't have a huge love for MDs here, but they're even trying to get nickel addressed. And nobody will do anything about it. So you get to protect yourself. You get to be here listening to this and do something about it. So now we get into the nickel and tattoos. Sorry about that. Sorry, I had to go back there. We'll do this. Okay. 2021, Contact Dermatitis Journal, nickel and tattoos. Where are we? Tattoos are not mentioned as a source of exposure to nickel. Traces of nickel are, however, almost inevitably found in tattoo inks as impurities and sometimes in tattooed skin. Whether nickel in tattoos has any health consequences debated. We performed a narrative review of what is currently known about this topic. Today, nickel is frequently detected in inks, but at highly variable levels. It appears to be at higher concentrations in green, blue, and sometimes brown and violet inks. Only nickel allergy in tattooed individuals and nickel-associated tattoo ink allergy are addressed in the literature. Reports of tattoo ink allergy related to nickel are rare and heterogeneous. Authors often neglect possible implications of other metals or dyes. A positive patch test is not enough to confirm the role of nickel in a reaction observed after tattooing. We found no report of any systemic complication attributed to nickel from tattoos, but there are plenty of systemic complications. The Council of Europe bans the presence of nickel at high levels in tattoo inks. Gosh, what does the US do? Anything? I don't believe so. Which is a safety net for individuals with nickel allergy. Large epidemiologic case control studies with systematic biopsies on normal and inflamed tattoos and patch testing would help to understand the role of nickel in tattoo ink allergies. How many people just slowly watch their health decline because they get a titanium or a stainless steel screw put in their elbow or their knee or their spine? It doesn't have to be like huge dermatitis. They just, medicine is so lost. They want it to always, this is the problem with this work that some people want and they can't grok about this work, is they want it to always be the same presentation every time. They don't understand systemic disease and how broken links in the chain, the weak link in the chain breaks first. Yours may be different than somebody else's. Oh, well, let's go into this one now. This is the last one. Distribution of nickel and chromium containing particles from tattoo needle wear in humans and its possible impact on allergic reactions. So they're about to tell you that literally pieces of the tattoo needle are coming off in your body. Although tattoo needles contain high amounts of sensitizing elements like nickel and chromium, their influence on metal deposition in skin has never been investigated. Here, we report the deposition of nano and micrometer-sized tattoo needle wear particles. Micrometer. That's not that small. I mean, it's small, but it's not nano. It's 1,000 times bigger than nano. Needle wear particles in human skin that translocate to lymph nodes. Usually, tattoo needles contain nickel 6 to 8% and chromium 15 to 20%, both of which prompt a high rate of sensitization in the general population. As verified in, come on, get out of the way. As verified in pigskin, wear significantly increased upon tattooing with the suspected abrasive titanium dioxide white when compared to carbon black pigment. Additionally, scanning electron microscopy of the tattoo needle revealed a high wear after tattooing with ink containing titanium dioxide. The investigation of the skin biopsy obtained from nickel-sensitized people with type 4 allergy toward a tattoo showed both wear particles and iron pigments contaminated with nickel. So the iron pigments were contaminated with nickel too. Iron's commonly in red, I think, right? So it's not just blue, it's not just green. Previously, the virtually inevitable nickel contamination of iron pigments was suspected to be responsible for nickel-driven tattoo allergies. The evidence from our study clearly points to an additional entry of nickel to both skin and lymph nodes originating from tattoo needle wear with an as yet to be assessed impact on tattoo allergy formation and systemic sensitization. And titanium dioxide, as far as I know, it's not just white ink. They mix titanium dioxide into other colors to make them lighter. So it's not just white. That's what I was understanding. Okay, so let me go back. That's it. Well, let me just go back to the my sheet. Let's just do a quick review. Nickel is up to 40 times more absorbed in water. Joe, there are lots of studies on nano-nickel particles, and they do horrible things like fatty liver and heart disease and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, we could look into that. So let's just go over nickel in water. Nickel in water is absorbed up to 40 times more on an empty stomach than the same amount of nickel from food is. The US government has no standard for nickel in water And the time they did have a standard, they shut it down 30 years ago. And even their standard is anemic compared to, it's 5 times higher than Europe's, and still it's 1.5 times higher than the WHO's, or if you want to say 50% higher. So they don't seem to care about us in our water. If you want your nickel tested, if you want to go and look at your local municipal water report, they're probably not going to measure nickel, almost guaranteed. You're going to have to get your water tested if you want to know how much nickel is in it. That's just how it is. Nickel is in biosludge fertilizers. It's allowed there. They allowed a 5 times increase in the amount of nickel in biosludge. The US's standard for biosludge nickel is 12 times higher than Canada's. And there is no single US federal nickel limit on phosphate fertilizer contaminants. So biosludge is full of nickel and other toxic metals, and phosphate fertilizer is full of nickel and other toxic metals. And they just say, well, this amount looks safe. But apparently the US thinks that bigger amounts are safer. Because we're Merkins. F yeah. Anyway, nickel in foods. Okay, so even Europe is allowing more nickel in people so that industries can be happy and not get in trouble. It just makes less. I mean, do you guys realize this? I'm saying this sarcastically. In a sick way, they're just like, it's less work for everybody. Right? If we just allow more nickel, then we don't have to, measure. We don't have to prosecute. We don't have to put people in jail. We don't have to shut people down. We don't have to do any of that. We just let more nickel get into the food and the water and the fertilizer, and then people eat it and they get sick. And oh no, they're sick. People are going to get sick anyway. And then they pay the sick care system, and nobody ever figures out why they're sick. And it's just less work for everybody, right? We don't even have to do labs. We don't have to do nickel tests. We don't have to do any of it. We just ignore the whole problem. So the amount of nickel that kids in Germany were eating was outrageous. The US lies about how much nickel people actually eat. The European Union is allowing crazy amounts of nickel in people. And the NWO's favorite diet is by definition about as high a nickel diet as you could do. Wonder why they're moving us towards that. Anyway, glyphosate. Nickel reduces nutrients in plants. Glyphosate contains nickel. They'll spray plants with nickel to supposedly protect them from the glyphosate. And the most toxic thing in glyphosate is the surfactant that they add to it. It's not the glyphosate. Piercings, just don't do it. If you want to put plastic in your ear, I guess. I don't. Then people be like, plastic's bad too. I'm like, then don't stick anything in your ear. What's that meme? Like, right? And then we have tattoos. If you have one, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix it, how to untattoo you. I do not know. I'm not going to tell you whether I think laser removal is better for you or not, because laser tattoo removal breaks it up in the skin and then it sends it to your lymph nodes. It's not going to change. The nickel is still the nickel. It doesn't make the nickel into something else. So I don't know what to do. I would definitely never, ever get a tattoo again. That's your best going forward thing. And if you got tattoos, a lot of them, and you're worried about nickel, then maybe you need to take Pectisol 3 times a day for the rest of your life. You got tons of other toxic metals in there from the tattoos anyway. So that's what I got. Okay. Okay, Joe, you can take that off now. So that's kind of, again, I'm just going to remind you guys, the purpose of a system is what it does. Now, I've always felt that there was a particular concerted effort to destroy America. I'm not one of these like flag waving like Merca. No, I'm saying there is a reason they need us. They need us sick, weak, and stupid. They need it. They absolutely require it. And if you go to Costco or Walmart these days, you see they got it. They've done it. They have done it. I look around, I go into public and I look around and I go, what would happen to, I mean, all these people would probably die if the shit hits the fan. Like, they can't even jog a quarter mile, much less like not eat for 3 days. It's bad. And so but they had to do that because part of it's the guns. They gotta do something. They can starve you and make you sick and make you excessively fat and do that, and then your guns don't really matter. So there's a reason for all of it. There's a reason. Oh, and then the jabs contain vaccine, or the jabs contain nickel, and then it's all over the place. We've been over all this. Oh, and they're pushing the tobacco and the nicotine thing and the weed thing and the magic mushrooms thing, and mushrooms are hyper accumulators of toxins from the soils. They're pushing all these things at the same time, plus the plant-based diet. Got the tattoos and the piercings. And when you look at it all together, some people will be like, oh, it's just a confluence of factors. Nothing's connected to anything else. And I say, maybe there's a really, really evil thing behind all of it, and they can coordinate it without people having to know that it's being coordinated. See what I'm saying? So it doesn't require them to have meetings. It just requires people to have inspiration at the right times and then go do it. Make a business out of it. And they're just like, I'm just having a business here. I'm not doing anything like conspiratorial. They're not. They've just been inspired in dreams or visions or influenced by things. So that's the way I look at it. But yeah, there's a plan. There's a plan. When you look at, again, I remember, I think it was Martin Ehrlich on Twitter who introduced me to the saying, the purpose of a system is what it does. If we're getting more and more nickel in from every angle, and we're getting sicker and sicker, and I even showed you how the nickel's causing the vitamin A toxicity epidemic in the last video. Here we are. So let me look through are there any super chats, Joe? I don't think there were. If you guys have any super chats, you better get them in quick, because I got to, I have stuff after this, so I can't go too long. So Russ said, hey, Dr. Smith. Hello, Russ. Russ was talking about the space weather thing I talked about earlier. He says, I've been feeling awful. Yeah, headaches every day. I had some days where I took naps like 2 or 3 days in a row, and I'm not a nap person. And I was going, there's something going on. Here, we'll add this. LeBrad says, this past week has been really rough. Crazy nickel cough. I'm almost 2 months in. I live in Illinois, and we had crazy tornado outbreak last week. I'm sure it's just coincidence. Right. Actually, Beth Martens was telling me about, they had tornadoes in Winnipeg, and that has never happened in her entire life there. So there was stuff going on. Oh, and then the solstice is the 21st. So yeah, and they're supposedly reaching peace over in the Middle East or whatever. Yeah, okay. But that could be, for those of you who follow, biblical stuff, that could be good or bad. So yeah. But yeah, so okay, so for those of you who have felt bad, like the nickel cough and the headaches and stuff like that, it's probably whatever's going on is stirring this stuff up in you, and you're in the middle of your detox, and it's going. So that's what we got. Oh, and he was just, Brad was just saying, Joe was saying he's in Burlington, Wisconsin, and the tornado threat was real. So yeah, Illinois and Wisconsin and all these high tornado places, right? Let's see. Elizabeth Honoria asked, just finished 2 bottles of Pectaclear. How long should I continue with it? Well, it depends on how you're doing and how long your detox is going to last. because some people are going to be months and months, and some people are going to be like a month maybe. So if you're feeling, a lot better, I mean, you can always stop it for a couple days a week, see if the stuff hits the fan. If the stuff hits the fan again, then you might want to get back on it and then be on it until, another bottle maybe. I don't know. But if you want to do Pectaclear long term, I mean, the dose on the bottle is what is it, 2 capsules a day? I don't think that's a great long-term dose. I'd probably do more. We should have, just so you guys know, we should have Pectasol and Pectaclear in the store this coming week is my guess. You don't need to, I will announce it everywhere. There's no need to email Julie about when it's going to happen. We just got to get the product pages and everything all made, and it'll be in the Love Your Liver store for our normal VIP store discounts for you guys. So it'll be something you want to find it there. But yeah, three bottles. I mean, 2 bottles is great. That means you've probably done what, about, if you did this 18 a day, I mean, that's 20 days. If you wanted to hit the full month with it, you need another bottle. Yeah. So, okay. So Sergio did a super chat. Is apo-lactoferrin okay to take? I have the Jarrow one. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's fine to take. I'd prefer the lactoferrin to be the way it comes out of the cow, which is a mix of holo and apo. So I'm gonna use that one. But if you have the Jarrow apo-lactoferrin, that's fine. So just be careful of it during the nickel detox, because it can stir up nickel. Definitely. Oh, so yeah, just Andy said, how many processed foods like cereals, biscuits, et cetera, are made with nickel stainless steel mixing vats and nickel stainless steel chopper/blender blades? We could go into this forever. The biggest thing we can do is to address the things that we can address. So if that means you want to make it all at home, that's one thing. But if you're just like, I'm going to eat out, so all I can do is pick the best foods that I know have the least nickel, then that's the best you can do. No, Joe said he couldn't find blenders with nickel-free blades. Yeah, you're not. No. And yeah, just any added nickel-containing food industry equipment. Yeah, I don't know how much like I'm not going to worry about knives. Like unless I'm cutting something that I'm damaging the knife with, you know what I mean? Like the needle going through the titanium dioxide. There's only so much you can worry about. This is one of the things about the nickel thing. That's the problem, is now nickel has become so, as the term in the studies used, is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. If you start becoming like paranoid and you're shutting yourself in your house because you can't go out because there's nickel everywhere, and you can't touch anything that's nickel, and you can't eat anything that was made with nickel, and you can't do, like, you're going to have a really bad time. So I would definitely maybe work with Beth Martens. I put Beth Martens info will be in the info box below. Yeah, I would definitely, if you're getting some weird stuff going on here about nickel, like paranoia and like just anxiety and all that stuff, I would definitely do some work with her. I did recently and I really liked it. And she's also doing her free group in the Love Your Liver program. So, I don't know if anybody answered this, but Aua said, has anyone developed a skin rash after repeatedly cooking in stainless steel pots? That would be an interesting thing about, like, for those of you who were using the Instant Pot, that would be something. I'm going to have to figure out, what I'm going to have to figure out is how to use the crock pot more. Because especially, as you guys know, with meat prices going like through the roof, insane. Well, the roasts are looking real good now. And if I'm not going to be using the Instant Pot as much, better just figure out the schedule to make the roast in the crock pot, which is not nickel. So, okay. This is an interesting one. Lucas said, hello, Doc. I learned that in some countries, asphalt is mixed with nickel before being paved on the road. I wonder why is this grounding trend spreading so fast? I don't know. I don't know. I have some of the Harmony 783 grounding. I have their flip-flops and I have a pair of their shoes. The shoes are too thick. I like minimal shoes. So the heel is too thick. I don't really wear them because I don't like that. I wear the flip-flops once in a while. But those are grounding with silver through the material. So, but yeah, I mean, making all the roads conductive and magnetic would be a very interesting thing to do by putting nickel in them, wouldn't it? Archon of J-Day says, I missed 20 minutes. I love a cover-up. Conspiracies fall within the scope of my nonprofit. My hours watching this are now tax deductible. Well, congratulations. Glad we could do that for you. Oh, and then Beth is here. Yes, there's Beth. Hello. So Becky said, not sure anyone could accuse Canada of loving and protecting their citizens more than the US. Well, maybe that nickel standard was made a while ago before things really got weird up in Canada. I don't know. Oh, yeah. And then Jackie K added, oh my, and they use the fluoride waste product from the phosphate fertilizer industries, or the phosphate industry of phosphate fertilizer is where it comes from, to add to the tap water. Yeah. So that phosphate fertilizer industry, they're just full of goodness, aren't they? They just give us so many things. Sam Jones says, Kelsey, does the kettle have a nickel element? I'm positive that it does. Yeah. Sam Jones says those water absorption stats explains why black tea can be such a problem even when the actual microgram amount is quite low, probably a lot higher absorption than from food. Yeah, I mean the tannins do grab some nickel, but the tannins may actually come with nickel as well when you drink it. So, but yeah, I mean, most people when they're drinking tea are often doing it on an empty stomach, and it may not be that much different than water. So yeah, tea's an issue. Let me see. So if anybody wants to post, Lisa said, I couldn't find a nickel-free kettle. Has anyone found one? Sergio says, do I have to worry about diabetes on a low nickel diet? Did you see the research I posted about the nickel amounts in diabetics? Like, actually, you know what I just found? I won't go over it today. I want to save it for a later episode, but I found that nickel and cobalt and manganese and copper and maybe one other one, they can totally mimic insulin in your body. Yeah, that's not good. So nickel can mimic estrogen and nickel can mimic insulin. And nickel makes people fat and diabetic. What a weird coincidence. So no, I'm not worried about the nickel. I mean, when you think about people in other countries, like if you were thinking of people eating some meat and a lot of rice, that's like a lot of other countries that don't have diabetes like we do. Countries that eat kind of a very low nickel diet traditionally don't have diabetes like we do until they started getting all these oils and other crap that we send them. Oh, canola oil. Canola oil is high in nickel. Canola oil accumulates a lot of nickel. So just throw that in there. But no, I don't think you have to worry about it, Sergio. Joe said he's been sprinkling some zinc oxide powder around his sweet potatoes. More zinc in the soil helps reduce nickel absorption. Joe, that's true. I think I saw one paper on too much zinc with the plants causing some issues. So just be aware of that. Archon says, does Miracle Grow and fertilizers sold at big box hardware stores contain nickel? I have no idea. I mean, if it's a phosphate fertilizer, if it's an NPK fertilizer, then yes, that the P is the phosphate and it's going to have nickel. Yeah, every phosphate fertilizer is going to have nickel contamination. Luca was saying, Doc, all planes, cars, bikes, pipes leach nickel into the city's air. Then that nickel deposits in the soil from which plants grow, and those plants accumulate more nickel in cities due to chronic exposure. Yeah. Growing a garden in the middle of a city may not be the best idea. It's like when I tell people, don't exercise on a busy road. Don't go and breathe in all that car exhaust when you're breathing in like 20 times more air. Don't do that. That's just, you're setting yourself up for getting sick or a nickel cough. So Bert asked, thoughts on using baobab powder lightly, 1 tablespoon every other day for calcium. I'm new to the LYLL program and low vitamin A, nickel, copper, manganese diet, and I'm still vitamin A toxic, but I'd like to get some calcium. It's not going to be, I mean, you can still be, as we've talked about in this diet, you can still be very low vitamin A. You can still be, you know, a deficient diet with some dairy in it. That's not very hard. People, the nickel is what's going to drive the. I'm really excited. I was talking to somebody the other day about what we're going to see on vitamin A numbers as we start to get the nickel down. Because remember, I told you retinol is one of the things that accumulates because of the ADH being inhibited by nickel. And so the serum retinol is the only one we can measure. So we may see serum retinol start to go down as the ADH starts working. We've already got the zinc we need to run the ADH, and then we take out the nickel, which again, zinc is an antagonist to nickel, and it works better. But baobab is a lot of vitamin C, a lot of polyphenols. I don't know that that would be a great choice for what we're doing. I'd just do some mineral water instead. Oh, Guadalupe St. Joseph says, wondering if there's a danger to doing the nickel detox low and slow, cutting out things one at a time. No, there's absolutely no danger. You should go watch the episode, I don't know, 5 or 6 back, where I talk about specifically taking out one thing at a time. Now, where I even had people prep for a month with like the Pectaclear or the Pectasol before they start dropping nickel things out. Almost nobody's listening to me. Everybody's just like, no, let's just do it. And then they're like, holy crap, doc, this nickel detox is hell. And I'm like, I told you. And they go, yeah, I know you did. And I go, yeah, I did. You just jumped in anyway. And they go, yeah, I did. So doing it slow, but a lot of people now, if you know, they trust me and they go, well, nickel's really bad, I want it out right now. And they just jump in. And I say, if you do that, it's going to be rough. I mean, the physical stuff is rough. The mental, emotional stuff, the moods are really rough. So, but yeah, you could take things out slow. The thing to know is it seems that once you take out, there could be a little detox cycle after each step that you do. So I tell people, like, if you take out one thing, if you fix your water supply, let's say your water was a problem, and you figure out what to do with that. Okay, so you do that, and then let's say you start dumping nickel. You start having some nickel dumping and nickel detox. Well, you could wait until that has passed before you take out the next thing. And you might have another detox from that. And then, you know, the next thing. So you could do it piecewise. Absolutely. That will probably be nicer. Or the detox may not actually start until you take out enough things to cross some threshold. And then it all tends to get going. So, but yeah, you can absolutely do it slow. Oh. Jackie says they're already selling lab-grown cocoa in chocolates. Okay. Well, I mean, if any of you guys want to help, I'm going to read Archon's post. So if you guys want to help him out, maybe he can tell you how to get a hold of him. He says, I'm going public there, no longer being anonymous, so it's a big deal for me. The CIA has no jurisdiction there. I forget where you were talking about. and I'll be setting up a table to fundraise for my nonprofit. I'd like to pursue legal cases, and that costs serious money to kickstart. I'm taking down the continuation of MK Ultra and mental hospitals as a mental health advocate. Good luck. I mean that. Well, Guadalupe St. Joseph says, every time I take any Pectaclear, I get super duper backed up, and apple pectin doesn't help. Then you don't take it. That's as simple as that. Kelsey was theorizing that the Pectasol with food may have caused her some constipation type issues. I don't know. Different people are different. I've always talked about this. Different fibers in different people and different amounts of fibers do different things. So if the alginate in Pectaclear, if you have Pectaclear and you don't know whether it's the Pectasol doing this or if it's the alginate in the Pectaclear, then it's hard to troubleshoot it. So I would try Pectasol by itself, see how that goes. And then if it's the Pectaclear, then just don't. If you can't use it because you don't get along with it, then you just can't use it. You give it to somebody else who's, doing the low nickel diet. But if it's the alginate, then you may just not get along with it, or it may just not get along with your guts. It may do stuff too fast. So, okay, Archon added, if the nanotechnologist approved Pectaclear as a treatment for the silent synthetic bacteria pandemic, then I'll be promoting that product on top of the keystone minerals with molybdenum in it. Cool. I'd also be recommending it to the USDA if they pursue investigation from the email I sent them. My guess is the USDA would be trying to get people to investigate you first before they were investigating other stuff. But that's just my skeptical, cynical nature of the government. So, okay, so let's go over this. So perfect example. So Guadalupe St. Joseph says, whoa, I took off all my jewelry and my skin broke out so badly for 2 weeks. This is what I'm talking about. You don't know which thing will trigger your nickel dumping. Like, think of how many people do things in their daily life that, they stopped wearing their jewelry. Let's say for whatever reason, personal reason, somebody stops wearing all their jewelry and they're like, what just happened to what happened to my skin? Why did I break out in a rash? Why am I coughing? Why did I get sick? Like, people have no idea of why this happens. And now we're sitting there going, you took out some nickel, didn't you? Or you put in some nickel. And then yeah. So that's exactly, yeah, that's what we're talking about. Jillian said, the Pectaclear is amazing. Thank you so much for recommending. I am in shock. My dog hiked like a champ this weekend, the most elevation gain in technical terrain she has ever hiked in her life. So now we got dogs on Pectaclear. Jillian wrote a great testimonial that I didn't want to go over today, but Jillian, I'm going to go over it next week, and we're going to go through the whole thing on her dog. And yeah, it'll be, so if dogs are getting better on a low nickel diet, then, we pretty much have it. But the Pectaclear is great. Guadalupe St. Joseph had some issues with it, but normally we see that it's a good thing. I talked last week about if the Pectaclear gives you any sleeping issues, then move it earlier in the day, like before noon. So all of whatever doses you're going to take, move it before noon. You're going to have sleeping issues on the nickel detox. You're just gonna. You can't get around that. It's part of all the health stuff that's going on in it. And then the space weather recently is going to mess with your sleep. I don't care who you are. So, Joe said, I used to put sewing needles through the top layers of my skin because I thought it was cool to have the needle stuck on my finger. I'll tell a quick story here about, like, this is the kind of guy I was in naturopathic medical school. You guys ever seen x-rays of the hand bones, right? Where it's like, they have like the rays right here, the carpals, right? The long bones right here where it looks like, why are my fingers so long? Because these bones here. So I was in acupuncture class and we're learning how to stick acupuncture needles. And I was always messing around in class. Like when they gave us some lidocaine, I'd heard about scar therapy or neural therapy where you inject scars with like procaine. And I thought, oh, so I got lidocaine. So I'm in class and I kind of I withdraw some of the lidocaine and I inject it into my elbow scars from baseball, and they all flattened out and they're all like normal skin color, and you can't even feel them anymore. And so that's like what I was doing at one time, messing around in class. And then another time in acupuncture class, I decided, I was like, well, wait, I know that there's like space, like all the way down here. So I took the acupuncture needle and I put it in there and I stuck it I kept pushing it in until I hit the bone down here. I kind of bonked on it and I was like, ooh. And people, my classmates, some of them are looking over at me being like, what the heck are you doing? I'm just like, I was just seeing how far in I could put it. That's the kind of stuff I did in med school. So no tattoos though. Okay, Laura says, so the amount of nickel released by stainless steel may depend on how much sulfur is in the alloy. Can you add this topic into the nickel discussion? I can. I don't know that it's going to change anything. I mean, if we use nickel-free stainless steel, then it becomes kind of a moot point, doesn't it? I mean, yeah. Some of these things, some of these topics are interesting. It's just I don't know that they necessarily move us forward when it's just easier to not cook with nickel. Remember, it's like, if you're worried about, like, Joe found nickel-free stainless steel silverware at Costco, I think last week, which is cool, but normally you're not heating your silverware, and your silverware is not spending extended times in acidic things, whereas like your pot is, and it's getting scraped, and there's heat and there's acidity and all that stuff. So just those are the things to focus on. Laura says, how is this affecting sulfur intake? Sulfur causes me so much pain. Well, the Love Your Liver program was already generally low sulfur, especially without the brassica, the crucifers. And then, we don't do the egg whites, which are high sulfur. And I mean, some people are doing some dairy now. Dairy can be a little sulfur issue for some people, but I mean, a low nickel diet is going to be a low sulfur diet the way we do it. So, yeah. Lino says, what a toxic soup we live in, how wonderfully and fearfully we are created. Yes. Sometimes I have to remind myself that I don't know why all this is happening. And I can't understand the reasons. So I believe I was put here to help people through this. So that's what I'm trying to do. So I wouldn't have much to do if everything was all peachy keen, Baptized in Fire said howdy, and Casey said hi everyone. Yes, hello everyone. Archon they were talking about magnesiums to help Guadalupe's bowels move. Archon said Dan Purser recommends magnesium glycinate, less stomach and GI issues, also sold on my website. Yeah, I think we still have it. And then there's if you want to get magnesium malate, I think that might help too. So, Quietly Content Bear says there's a podcast about people getting poisoned by their medical implants / hardware called Heavily Metalled. They claim that all metal in the body degrades over time. I believe that. Why would we not assume that? Yeah, it's just some of them degrade faster or slower than others, and some of them are more allergenic than others. But yeah, they're all going to be, you don't want any of them. And if you got them in there, all you can try to do is manage it. And that's like where I'd be saying Pexol, Pectaclear, Zeolite, like the charcoal, figure out your daily dose, and you're going to take it for good. Like you're going to keep taking it because that metal's not going anywhere. Sometimes I wonder, actually, I've been thinking about this. My mom got her mercury fillings replaced, but I don't remember what she got them replaced with. And I think she still has some other metal in her mouth. And I just don't think she's interested in getting it taken care of. I'll take a peek inside her mouth, but that's something I hadn't thought about again. We got the mercury fillings out, but I may not have looked and seen what other metals she has in her mouth, and that may be a big part of the problem. So, let's see. Oh, Baptized in Fire says my earrings are handmade of fine silver, 99.9%. Joe says nickel-free guns. Yeah, right. Nickel-free bullets. No, yeah. Don't think you're gonna find those. Free Inspiration says, is there an LYL dating app so we can find non-toxic singles? No. You would I would try not to make it into a dating thing. I would if we had some issues inside the Love Your Liver program that we, I would okay. So people wonder about this because it's like, how did Kelsey and I meet? Well, Kelsey saw me on YouTube, liked my stuff, started doing it, came into the Love Your Liver program, sent me a message. I got back to her. I had watched her on YouTube too, and I thought she was really cute. And then, so we were messaging on the network, and then finally we took it off the network to Telegram. And what did we do? We just celebrated, over 2 years together. So I'm not saying it's not. You just need to make it like it needs to be outside. Like you're trying to. I wouldn't go into it like you're trying to date. Go into it like you see somebody who's interesting, you want to talk to them, and you can talk to them, and then move it out of the Love Your Liver program. Like, don't involve the Love Your Liver program in your extracurricular activities. That's what I can say about that. So it's not a dating app. But you could meet somebody very special there. I did. So, Baptized in Fire said the purpose of a system is what it does. True. I mean, it is. Heather Parker says, man, the whites of your eyes are really, really white. We're all noticing this. That's good. Cause I remember I used to be like wondering about, the redness in my eyes. I just keep working on stuff, Thank you for noticing though. Wait. Sergio, what do you say? Very expensive, also crazy expensive. What are you referring to? You say it's stirring it like crazy, Doc. Oh my gosh. I take it for like 1.6 years already. What are you referring to, Sergio? Joe, if you can look for that comment. Oh, he's talking about apolilactoferrin. Okay to take. So if apolilactoferrin is stirring up nickel, I would not do it right now. No. For those of you who are already taking lactoferrin, when you go through the low nickel diet, the detox, you may need to like cut your dose in half so you don't stir up stuff more than it has to be. Okay. Christopher Oliver says nickel making everything bad for us reminds me of Breaking Bad when he's teaching about chirality. Yeah, the spin or the twist. Beth says, I've been using my air fryer in the baking setting for a bunch of stuff so it doesn't actually fry the food, but I wouldn't use it for a roast again. Well, it depends on air fryers. Like if it's the non-stick type of air fryer, like where it's just totally coated in non-stick, I wouldn't ever personally use those. We have a toaster oven that has an air fryer setting that seems to work, but I've kind of calmed down. I've gone like air fryer seemed to be the harshest one. So I moved down to like convection bake, which is still got air flowing and the heat, but it's not as intense as the air fryer for whatever reason. I can just see that. I can see it in the food. So, David was saying nickel's used as a catalyst in many processes. This is true. Allie McBeal says chuck roast in Homa Chef stock pot with 2 cups water and lid on in a 350-degree oven for 4 to 5 hours should leave the meat falling apart. Cool. Oh, yeah. Jackie K says tea absorbs fluoride from the soil too. The tea plant is just between the caffeine and the nickel and the fluoride and like, oh man, nope. Porcelain lined kettles are nice. There is the like pseudo ceramic instant pot. There is a lined instant pot with like the ceramic stuff, but some other people have come out and said that it's not ceramic. They call it pseudo ceramic. I don't know. Is it better than stainless steel? Probably. I can't say that for sure though. Okay. Compostaper says borosilicate glass stovetop whistling tea kettle is good. So there's a glass tea kettle you can get. Oh, good morning, Matthew Jones. Okay. Oh, wow. Beth says, I have the Sante shower filter, but I'm scared to install it for the nickel dumping. LOL. Canada Customs charged me 117 COD tariffs. FFS. Yes. I would use it. I would. You're already doing the diet. You should be past the big. You've already had some big dumps. I wouldn't worry about that. I haven't heard about Canada having a lot of nickel in the water. Allie McBeal says, I'm 90% sure my front uterine muscle weakness is due to the multiple belly button piercings I've had for like 15 to 20 years till 2 days ago. Oh, well, maybe it will come back. You might try some magnet therapy over that area. That might help. Okay. Matthew Jones says chocolate is one hell of a drug to get off of. I got off sugar cold turkey, but chocolate is damn hard. Chocolate is from what other people have experienced. Yes, chocolate is very hard. And some of the people who I could not seem to help were people who were addicted to chocolate. One woman now, I know she's absolutely nickel toxic. She used to say her whole body would start burning when she'd get around EMF. And we worked on the copper thing because that's what we thought it was. And she'd do really well. But then she'd be like, well, I've been having chocolate every day. And it's like, and now, and she blamed it on mercury from her childhood. And I'm going, this was all nickel. This was absolutely nickel. And I didn't know it at the time. So, Archon said, thanks. I'm known for being lucky, but a little more luck will help. I trust the USDA because they have jurisdiction over animals and plants. The CIA handles people, so the USDA can resist the CIA trying. Elizabeth says, which white rice is best? Least arsenic. That's very easy. That's Lotus Foods. They test their rice. They show you the results. Lotus Foods. So for those of you who, if you haven't watched my how to clean rice episode, you're going to want to watch that. But I've seen people who do like the charcoal soaking versus using Lotus Foods rice, and the Lotus Foods and the charcoal basically work about the same. So if you want to spend more money and just have it easy, you can just make it. That's Lotus Foods. If you want to prepare it, you can do other white rices. That's fine. Just, whether you do the cooking method or whether you're doing the charcoal soaking or whatever you're doing, you got to do something to get you want to do something to get the arsenic out, because arsenic in white rice is an issue. It's an issue in brown rice too. Archon was just finishing. The USDA can resist the CIA trying to pull rank and shut down an investigation. Beth says she's got to go. Bye, Beth. Talk to you later. Composter says, thanks for all you do. Okay. Archon says, I've already been under government surveillance, like surveillance vans, buying the house across the street and setting up to hack into my router, and they dismissed me, and I counterspied And they said, this guy, where is it? Is all American. Why isn't he working for us? I guess that's a good compliment. Sergio says, Doc, I'm very sulfur sensitive. Even meat has too much sulfur for me, but I eat it anyways. Don't do so much that you cause yourself problems, and make sure you're getting your molybdenum. Oh, 108 concurrent viewers. I think that might be a record. Okay, Luca added to talking to Sergio. He said, I had that too. Your sulfox enzyme requires molybdenum for reducing sulfur to sulfate, but nickel is also antagonistic to molybdenum. See, so the nickel gets into the sulfur problem too. It's everywhere. And nickel actually likes to bind to sulfur. Nickel in the Earth's crust tends to make sulfur compounds like nickel sulfide and nickel oxides. So nickel loves sulfur. That would be weird if you had the devil's copper and sulfur, which is brimstone, liking to bind together. Wouldn't that be just so weird? So, oh yeah. Lucas said, Sergio Homoni, try to work with Dr. Smith on adding a little more molybdenum after a meal, dissolve in some water and drink it. It should help your cells reduce excess sulfites from slow. I believe that's sulfox, but sulfite oxidase. There is EIDON, EIDON, makes a liquid molybdenum that's very low dose that you could try, Sergio. But yeah, molybdenum is really, really important for this. Oh, Joe linked the white rice show, how to wash it. Oh, Jackie's trying. Yeah, hi, Dr. G. I would love to connect about the PDF project. We will. I've been accumulating a little outline of my own because everything just keeps growing. Like the subject keeps growing, so it's kind of hard to write about it. What I was going to work on first was going to work on something for the Love Your Liver program people, like how to the low nickel diet stuff from all the stuff, and then we go into a bigger book for out there. Does the ceramic Instant Pot insert have nickel too? I have no idea. I can't analyze all of these things. It's a pseudo ceramic liner. So is there going to be nickel on the outside of the pot? Yeah, it's going to be like a stainless steel pot that's lined with the pseudo ceramic. Do I know what's in that? No, I don't. Baptized in Fire says auspicious number 108. Okay. Oh, Io Ann Platt says, yes, I'm keeping up. Well, that's good. That's good. Thank you for doing that. Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all the chats I'm going to go through. I gotta wrap this up because I have to go do the Inner Circle. If you didn't know what the Inner Circle is, the Inner Circle is another live stream I do right after this, which is inside the Love Your Liver network. It is a separate payment, but you can come and ask more questions that would not be okay necessarily on YouTube. I can be a bit more honest in my answers there, and I can give more stuff there because it doesn't go on to public YouTube. So, well, it doesn't go on YouTube at all. Do you know that YouTube? I had an unlisted video. It might have even been private here on this channel, and I got a ding for it. They took it down and they said this is not okay, and I'm like, it wasn't even on the internet. Like, I took it down a long time ago. So, but they don't care. It's dangerous. You're a thought crime. You committed thought crimes. So anyway, hope you all liked the show. That was all the stuff we went over. Let me go through a couple of links here. So those of you who are the juicy part's done, if you want to stick around for the links, you can. So if you want to find us on the web, youtube.com is our main live stream place. It's youtube.com/nutrition detective, just so you guys know where I announced the live stream. So if you want to know what the topic of the live stream is or when it is. It's usually Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Arizona time, which is MST. But I announce it 3 places mainly. I announce it on the Love Your Liver Network. I announce it on my YouTube wall, and I announce it on Twitter. So if you follow me in those areas, I can't tell you how well Twitter is going to show you my posts, other stuff like that, but those are the places I announce it. And then I think we're going to be getting into putting reminders into our email newsletter blasts that are going to be coming out much more regularly. I've gotten some help on that angle. So that will be coming out. So then if you wanted to find me on Twitter, x.com or twitter.com/NutriDetect. I hope you guys like the new placeholder image that I used for the video today. I just had that made, the green one. So I hope you like it. It's better than the black one. I know that for sure. And it's our new logo. I still got to get up all our new logos everywhere. So if you wanted to see all the videos that we've done, all the live streams without editing, without the missing 198 episode, which you can't find on YouTube, you can find that on our Rumble channel. And there's the address down there, rumble.com/user/nutrition detective. Then we have our main website, nutritiondetective.com. Nutritiondetective.com. This is where you can find our shop. If you're not a Love Your Liver member, the regular shop has our products. If you become a Love Your Liver member, you get discounts on all of our products, and it's a password protected store, and you can go in there and you can get your stuff there. That's where, yes, we will have. I can't say it here. I can't talk about Pectisol and Pecticlear prices, so I'm not going to. But things will be good. So we have that. If you want to work with Kelsey on testing and consultation packages, that you can find in there. If you want to find the Love Your Liver program, that's under memberships. And you can also, as we'll go over there's a direct link to the Love Your Liver program. The Love Your Liver program, so that's the basis of what we do here. So let me find that. Where was that? Joe, where is it? Where'd it go? Come on. There it is. Yeah. So the Love Your Liver program. This is the do-it-yourself program. This is basically a private social network with the Love Your Liver program in there. I need to get in there, and I'm talking about updating. Like you guys can see, the nickel toxicity thing continues to grow. And so I haven't sat down and really accumulated all the stuff. If you guys think you watching a 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour live stream is a lot, imagine me having to review like 5 of them to try to get all the information that I said out of there that I don't necessarily just remember off the top of my head. So yeah, getting that stuff done is going to be important, but there will be for those of you who are doing the old school Love Your Liver program, it has helped tons of people. And then if you layer on the new low nickel diet stuff to the Love Your Liver program, then the stuff that you've had trouble getting rid of for a long time, if you couldn't get rid of it with the regular Love Your Liver program, I'm about positive that that's going to go away too. So, but that's the Love Your Liver program. That is at members.nutritiondetective.com, or you can find it the membership link on the main website. So then we have, let's see, if you're on Facebook, we do actually live stream this on Facebook, the.real nutrition detective. You can find us there. The Toxic Bile Paradigm series. This is the basis of what we're doing and how we're trying to fix people. It was episodes 231 to 233. I did them with Beth Martens. She was my interviewer on them, and I think it went really well. Let's see. The Reviv Mouthguard. This is I love mine. The Reviv Mouthguard can help. I think the space between my front teeth is getting smaller. I really do. And Ken Lever, the guy I did an episode with him, the creator of it, he said he thinks that will happen too. So it's pretty exciting. Yeah, I get to the point now where I don't want to sleep without it. Like I go to bed and I feel like there's something missing, and I go, I want my mouth guard. So it's good. I really like it. So I think I like this. If you want to get a discount, use that link, use the discount code, and you'll get a discount on it. Okay. Let's see. This is some of the really, truly nickel-free cookware, the Homa Chef. You can just find them on Amazon. If you want to use that link, you can. It doesn't really do anything for me. Amazon kicks me out of their affiliate program every time. I got to figure out how to stay on there. But anyway, this next link, GLASP. So when you guys saw me highlighting papers today, GLASP is the software, is the browser extension that does that. And it saves all of those links, all of the highlighted parts and all of the links in this website. So if you want to find it, it's that VJ9N, that long string there, but that's my site on GLASP. And if you wanted to search for cooking, nickel cooking, you can do that. It'll search the highlights that I did for those words. So you could search for nickel, you could search for copper, you could search for vitamin A, you could search for retinoid, you could search for whatever. On that note, I don't know if we have it on here, but yeah, I got to add that. In the info box below, there is a little search. There's a website where you can go and search for key terms that have been used in my videos, in the transcripts of the videos. So there's a little search box down in the info box that you can use for that. And really grateful to the gentleman who put that together. So then we have, let's just do Instagram real quick. I am on Instagram. I think we just broke like 1,200 followers on Instagram. So we're the .real nutrition detective. I don't do much on Instagram. I think I'm so tired of all social media. Some people say YouTube's social media, and some people say it's a like how to. Oh, Joe's showing you the link. This is the link. Joe, I don't know if you can put up the link to that. Show it on screen. If you can't, no big deal. But this is what it looks like. The link in the info box where you can search the transcripts of the YouTube videos or the research abstracts. So, I guess maybe he connected this to GLASP too. Wow. Talented guy. And then, okay, so I do have a Substack. Oh, sorry, Joe just put the link there. So at nd-youtube-search.vercel.app. Yeah, that's that. Okay, moving on. We have, my Substack, if you want to go follow me there. Finally, we got, I just want to go over the EMF stuff. Well, actually, I got two more things. Sarah Leilani is our EMF solutions person. She is great. If you want to learn about the EMF solution stuff, or you want a free consult with her, I did a show with her. I don't know how many shows back, maybe 4 or 5. She's great. She came on to talk about that stuff. I have all their stuff everywhere because it's generally affordable compared to some of those crazy kooky EMF things out there. But she does a free consult. If you want to get anything from her, go to her website, use the code DrSmith7. I think that gets you free shipping and maybe 7% off. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. Anyway, so that's Sarah's website. And one of the shows that I did that was talking about EMF stuff was number 117 about EMF and copper toxicity and vitamin A toxicity and iron overload. Now we add nickel to that because nickel is conductive like copper and magnetic like iron. So nickel is your EMF problems. So we got that. Then, if you wanted to work with Kelsey on going over the hair testing and the blood testing that we do, this is the link. You can also find it at the testing. Well, I forget what the link was on the website. Is it consultation or testing and consultation? Anyway, it's there. You can find it. So we got that. I wanted to put up one more thing. Here, let me find it. Here, Joe, I'm going to send this to you on Telegram. If you could just post this link. So I want to just give a shout out real quick to Beth again. Beth and I have no financial arrangement. Nothing. She does her weekly group session called Deprogramming Your Health inside of the Love Your Liver program. I think is it Wednesdays? I think it's Wednesdays. It doesn't matter. Anyway, she does that. I have I have utilized Beth's services privately twice now. This last time I had like huge breakthrough stuff that it just made everything. So you could say it's a huge breakthrough when really what I'm saying is it made everything easier for me, mentally, emotionally. And even when stuff kicks up from space weather, nickel detox or whatever, it turned into more of like, okay, I want to help you guys with this. Like when you get anxiety, right? Like let's say something causes me anxiety. Something causes me anxiety, like something happens with work or something happens with the family, and I get this feeling. And then my brain kind of ruminates on that topic. Whatever topic is going on, my brain's going to keep running it, right? Well, what happened after that session with Beth that I did was all of a sudden when the space weather pops up or I get that feeling, I'm not the ruminating, the repeating the same thought over and over stopped. And now it's kind of weird because I just have this, it's just the feeling. It's not the feeling plus the noise. It's just the feeling. Then I can really just go, oh, this is not like, I'm not really worried about anything. This is like from outside of me, and everything's, I still have the feeling. It doesn't make the feeling go away, but I just kind of go, okay, well, this is from outside of me. It's going to go away. And it does. And I just don't have to let it affect me. I don't have to let it affect how I interact with other people so much. It's just there. So I really want to tell you guys, she's got courses where you can do it. You can do private sessions. I really highly recommend it. And like I said, I have no financial relationship to Beth. We're just really big fans of each other's work. So Joe, did you get that link? Did you put the link up? Did that come up? Hold on. We're trying to figure out these links. Anyway, I'll get to it. There it is. Thanks, Joe. So we got that. I was telling Beth I was gonna put it in the show links, and I meant to do it, so I was gonna do it. So even if we had to do a little extra for that, that's fine. But anyway, that's all I have. So we are on. Joe, do you have? Here we are. Oh, you can take that one off, Joe. So this is the question: is it a nickel toxicity cover up? And we looked at water and food and industry and how they're not doing anything to protect us. They are going the opposite way. They are trying to put us in more danger. This is episode number 255. And just a reminder, the purpose of a system is what it does. So whatever they are doing to us, that is their purpose. And they have said this before. So hope you all have a great week. I know it's kind of a bummer, but hey, it's the world we live in. So have a great week. I will see you next time. Bye now.